You're listening to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN. Once again, here's your hosts, Gary Kelley and Brad Avergon.
Hi, we're back on WCRN. This is Gary Kelley, joined by Brad Avergon. Brad's with Envision Bank and Mortgage, and I'm with RE/MAX Executive Realty. And we're talking about what's going on in the market right now. And we've got people that are saying, oh my God, I missed the market. I shouldn't do anything. Brad, you're smiling. You've got a story to tell.
Oh, I always have a story to tell. It's very, very interesting to hear buyers' perceptions as to what's going on and more importantly, where is it going? So it's really funny. 6 months ago, I had clients that were saying to me, oh my gosh, buyers saying, I hope I'm not overpaying. I'm hoping that the market's gonna crash, and I'm gonna have overpaid and this is gonna be a problem. Now you hear people saying, oh my goodness, I missed the market. That was 6 months ago. I could be the same person, at the time. I missed the market, and now I'm going to sell my property, and I'm not going to get top dollar for it because now the market is going to more. And I have to hold myself back from chuckling, because when you've been doing this as long as I have and as long as you have, you understand that if you're in the market, you're okay, because all boats rise at the same.
A rising tide raises all ships.
Thank you, Gary, for that acumen there. So if you're in the market, you're in. So if you sell your house for a little bit more, but you buy a little bit more, you're okay. You spend a little more when you buy. If you sell your house for just a little bit less and you're buying for a little bit less, you're okay. As long as you try to get in the game, I think that's the nature of it. And also, even if you didn't get in the game, last time, once you get in, over the long haul, real estate has historically appreciated. It's not necessarily going to appreciate at the same rate it did in the last 24 months, but it does appreciate over time. So that's why it's important that you have a discussion with a professional as to what's your time horizon. If you're trying to time the market and say, I'm going to buy in and I'm going to flip it in 6 months and make a killing on it, that may not be the best, plan of attack, so to speak. I think you have to look at things and speak to a professional as to what's a good strategy. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that, a lot of people look at it, and I'm not a market timing kind of guy. I'm not with my personal investing, and I'm certainly not when it comes to real estate. I look and say, does it make sense given the marketplace? I do believe that as we begin to evolve to a more normal market, I think at some point, you're going to see interest rates begin to creep up. But I also think that will tap the brakes a bit on pricing. So I think a consumer who is looking today, let's say they're buying a $300,000 house at 3%, they may be paying less for that house at a higher interest rates, but the payments overall are going to be about the same, maybe a little bit more, but it's not going to be crazy stupid. And that's the part that I don't think people get. It's not a case of, oh, I didn't sell at the peak, let me do nothing now. You didn't sell at the peak, but there's still a robust market out there. And as you mentioned, Brad, you got a file drawer full of pre-approvals for people that can't find a house. So that's still a good thing to do. And if you're out and you've been looking at homes, and let's say you've offered, 8, 9 times and you keep losing, well, you're going to keep losing if you don't stand at the plate and take a swing. And you've got to be able to have the confidence in working with someone that can give you advice and direction on where the offer should be. We're still getting offers accepted. And, sometimes we're over asking, sometimes we're under asking, which people are like, you can buy a house for under asking. Well, yeah, if a house has been sitting on the market for a couple of months and they've had a price reduction, chances are they're interested in moving that house along. So it's situational, but that's where you need to have someone work with you that understands those situations.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. And I think a lot of the discussions that I've been having as of late have been with regard to strategy, not the time of the striking. I'll give you a perfect example. So I had a meeting with a client last night, and the client was talking to me about possibly refinancing and looking to lower their interest rate and maybe even shorten their term. And we examined that. But one of the things that they brought up in conversation was that this was a condo that they had in the Boston area. They said, we plan on keeping this condominium. We want to buy a single family home, not now, but in probably when our children get of the right age, probably in the next 2 years. 2 years from now, we're going to probably want to do that. And I said, well, you know what? Let's have a second conversation. And again, they're the CEO. I'm just an advisor, so they make the decision on it. I said, let's look at what if we pulled the equity out of your home at a low interest rate, and rather than shorten the term, we extended the term. So now you've got that money as a down payment that you're going to apply 2 years from now, but you bought it, you got that money and secured it at a fixed rate at a lower interest rate before rates rise 2 years from now, or before you move out of the property and then you have to refinance and pull the equity out as at an investment rate, which is a higher interest rate. And so that type of conversation, those types of big picture and strategic conversations, whether they're going to buy in the next couple of months or they're going to buy in the next few years, they're really, really important. I know you tend to have those conversations with folks too when they're thinking about, okay, we want to buy a property. How long are you going to be in the property? Or if they want to sell a property, where are you going to go? What's your plan?
Right.
That big picture look. What do you think about those? Are you having more of those conversations, or do you?
Well, if someone calls up and says, we want to sell a house, okay, we're excited. We want to do the listing, we'll schedule the photographer on the way to the listing appointment. I'm being a little facetious, but you definitely want to pay attention. But the first question I have is, so where are you going? And if they say, well, we own a house in the Cape or we bought something in Florida, I'm very happy for them because they know where they're going to end up. If they say, well, we don't know, or if they say they're going to rent for a while and kind of step aside from the market, okay, that's a strategy. But you've thought about where you're going to live. If you have people that say, well, I got to buy something. Well, let's think about how long it's going to take to buy something, especially if your house hasn't sold. And, some people are able to do bridge loans. I know that you're able to do a bridge loan of a type if the people are looking to mortgage a house later with you. So, there's a couple of different ways to deal with that. But if people just go in and say, well, I'm just going to buy something, it's not necessarily that easy right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
One of the other things, I was talking to another loan officer, and he made a comment that one of the big things he sees people doing where they end up making a mistake is, maybe someone that's in their 50s going in and saying that they want a very short-term mortgage, let's say 15 years, rather than taking 30 years. And what happens is something happens to one of the people in the relationship, and the next thing you know, they're struggling to make the payments because they went for the larger payment, shorter term. And his point is, go with a longer term. It'll keep the payment lower, and you can always double up payments. You can't necessarily make smaller payments when you have the shorter term. What do you advise people?
I absolutely agree with what that loan officer said to you, and I make similar recommendations to my clients. I think one of the most undervalued or underestimated consequences of mortgage financing is cash flow. And one of the conversations that I have with folks very early on in the conversation is I kind of take my banker's hat off and I say, let's just talk people to people. What are you paying right now? Where do you see your income going? What's going to happen in the future? And we'll have those conversations, because if one of those parties, for any reason, their income drops off, if somebody's in their 50s and they or 60s and they develop some health related issues and they can't work anymore, that could absolutely impact their ability to pay that mortgage, even though when they made that decision, they were perfectly healthy and they were in kind of a race to finish the mortgage, because the goal was, if I own my house free and clear, I don't have to worry about making a mortgage payment. So there's a kind of a mindset that they're going to be healthy indefinitely, and they don't understand the cash flow consequences of what can happen. Likewise, sometimes even with young people, if they're thinking, hey, we're both working, this is fantastic, and they're not thinking, well, down the road, one of them may be leaving to raise the family or whatever the case may be. It will definitely impact their ability, especially if they're having children. And so, because there's other costs associated with that. So I try to have those open conversations with folks. They can think long term, and ultimately do end up recommending oftentimes to keep the longer term mortgage on it, but pay it quickly. And I'm the first one to hand them a 15 or a 20-year amortization and say, look, as long as you want to, you can pay at this rate and you'll pay your loan off quicker. But should something come up and to kind of take away that plan to redirect it, you've got options, and you can fall back to this smaller, more comfortable payment that maybe one of you can afford to pay. And I think
Brad, how does someone reach you? They want to have further discussion.
978-375-5531 is my cell. Email is bavergon@envisionbank.com. And Gary, you?
I'm Gary Kelley, Gary at Move with Gary, and 508-733-6005. Brad, as always, a nice, stimulating discussion. You have a great day and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
You too, Gary. Thanks. Be well.
You've been listening to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN.